Assalamu alaikum. Hello there. And what about ye? And welcome back after quite a minute to Are You Not Qatartainment? The interviews in association with CinemaScholars.com and Qatartainment. And what a return I have. I'm your host, Glen Dower, and I was so privileged and lucky enough to host a roundtable with the filmmakers of the new thriller, The Omro Heist. I got to speak with the co-writer and star, Mr. Simon Phillips, the director, Mr. Jamie Bailey, and co-star, Anthony Crivello, producer and star Ken Bressers. And what a conversation we had, folks. You'll not want to miss this if you are not only a crime, robbery movie fan, but also a filmmaker and a fan of the filmmaking process, because we deep dive into casting, we deep dive into the joys of filmmaking, and also the financial parts and how governments now need to encourage filmmaking in their local areas to provide employment and just local joy. It's a fantastic conversation. I was so proud to be part of it, and I really hope you enjoy it. But first, no matter where you're listening or watching this, please like, please subscribe, please follow, please comment, all those things that are free to you, but help all my channels immensely. Also, follow me at Dower Film Doha on Instagram, and also subscribe to Cinema Scholars and Qatartainment on YouTube, Spotify, and on Instagram, of course, as well as Facebook. But enough from me, over to myself. But first of all, here's the trailer for The Omro Heist.
Banks are the new evil in our world today. They hold the whip over every man. But not today.
Everybody freeze! It means you later rise! When you came from, you understand me?
I got this. This room is secure. What are we doing? You're gonna be safe in there. What? Who are you? Can you see her?
Okay, we see her.
I'm trying to do something nice.
Put your hands up in the air! Fire!
What are you waiting for? Tell me, Chief. Did you get my message? Safety's on.
Look at this embarrassment of riches, the Omro Heist Roundtable. How are we doing, gents?
Good. So good.
Excellent. So let's go around the table. So, Mr. Phillips, we meet again. I don't know if you remember me. It was around this time exactly last year. We talked about a certain movie. We'll talk about that in due time. But it's really good to see you again. How are you doing?
Good to see you too. Thank you for having us back, Glenn. Yes, I do remember. I try to make it the same time every year. I think of it like an anniversary.
Thank you. So I'll clear my schedule for this time next year for the Mickey verse.
Something.
Mr. Bressers, how are you, sir?
Doing fine. And thank you so much, Glenn, for allowing us to be on this broadcast.
I'm so excited you're here. And Mr. Crivello, how are you, sir?
Very good, Glenn. Thank you so much. Appreciate the asking.
Awesome sauce. Okay, so Mr. Phillips, start with you as the writer and the main guy. I just had one word to describe your performance when I was watching. The word is gleeful. You have so much fun in this movie.
I was about what that one word was going to be for a minute. You're building it up. But one word is abominable. You know, like also terrible.
But you're also the writer for the film, which I thought was really interesting. So I just wanted to see. I love that in the opening, you're in the car with your two comrades, say, and you say, we want to be the good bad guys. I thought that's interesting. Okay. And then a moment later, you whack a lady in the face with a barrel of your shotgun. Was that intentional to say, okay, we really can't trust this guy. This guy is all the gray.
That's one of the nice things about it. There's a scene. That scene is obviously a pointer to that. But there's one later on where I'm being very nice to a young girl who we believe, she believes that I'm going to let go if she does something for me. So I'm uncannily nice to her. Sort of, I draw her in, like, kind of gain her security. only to go back on it a moment later, sort of. So yeah, gleeful is the right word. I enjoy my job too much, as Tony Crivello said, sort of. So, but that's good. That's fun to play, right? You know, sort of rather than just being evil for evil's sake, it adds a bit of color to the character. So, and I'm joined by a great array of actors in the movie, sort of doing the same thing in there for their characters. So, yeah, it's a bit of an honor.
And my question was, the film is beautiful to look at. It's all filmed at sort of rusty hue. Everything is warm. What was the intention behind that as a filming choice? Was that just to get that area and that feel of Americana, do you think?
Yeah, we're in a small town. I was trying to go for like an old like 70s type field film stock kind of thing. I was going for that. We kind of put us in the past, but it kept us in the present too at the same time. Try to a world build and make you feel like you're actually in a particular time and place.
And you and Mr. Phillips, you work together so many times now. What's the shorthand like between you two?
Oh, well, me and Jamie and Ken have done a bunch of movies together. Me and Jamie have done 7 anyway. Me and Ken might have done a few more than that. But we're all connected here a little bit. Ken and Tony Crivello actually know each other from teenage years, sort of. So when they were both young actors. So everybody is connected on the film, which is kind of how we made this film, Glenn, to be honest. It was all a bit indie spirit. So the location, actually, I'll let Ken tell you about how this whole thing started. Ken.
Well, first of all, regarding Mr. Anthony Crivello, I hired him in 1976 for a theater show that I produced on Mackinac Island in Michigan, and he was my roommate, in fact. And so yeah, we have known each other for quite a while. I live in Omro. In fact, I am in Omro right now, and I own a pharmacy here. I own a couple others, but this is my mothership here. And I needed another building to expand our long-term care business. And I found a building in our sister town here of Winneconne, which was a branch of a bank. And I went and looked at it. It looked fantastic. I was struck by the beautiful walk-in safes and the ornateness of them and the layout, and it would work perfect for what I wanted. So I bought the building, and I immediately called Simon and said, listen, I really think this would be a good location for a film. And so Simon came down with his young son and spent a few days here, took some pictures, took some videos, went back up to Canada, shared them with Jamie, and we ended up getting a script out of it. And that's how the whole thing began. So we basically started with the location and worked from there. At least that's what we did, I say, but actually it was Simon because he wrote the script.
Well, we did this process, Glenn, of kind of like reverse engineering a little bit, kind of using what we have, like sort of making that rather than writing a story and then trying to make something fit badly, like sort of like, well, this is the location. The fact that it had a couple of things, like it had a basement, it had 2 safes, not one, like 2 different types of safes. So we dressed that into the story, and things like that to make it work, and then sort of drop the story on top of it. The bank robbery, if you've seen the movie, I'm sure, it sort of sits in the background. Sort of the story itself is a bit more character driven, but when we talk about the film, we have to get everybody in with a hook, this old marketing hook saying, well, it's about a bank robbery, it's a siege. That always makes it exciting, and boys love bank robbery films.
We do indeed. Yeah, that's somewhat the characters, as it were. So, Mr. Crivello, let's start with you. You play like the town sheriff. Yeah. And we meet your son very early on in the film, and you play him, he's very old school. Yeah. This is quite a town, he wants to keep it that way, keep everything safe, but he wanted to pass his role down a family line. And his son, you think, oh, he's gone off, he's gone to the big city, he wants to be the big shot, which we can understand from both points of view. But did you base him on anyone you knew yourself, or did you just go to the script and say, I get this guy?
No, it was, obviously acting through the words that were provided by Simon with a little bit of improv included. But right from the very top of the film, you get the dynamic of the relationship between father and son, as you just were saying a second ago, Glenn, that that son goes off to become an FBI agent, father is left, but also the fact that the son left when his mother was going through crisis of health crisis, and eventually took her life. You see then too the relationship with the chief of police in D.W. Johnson that I portrayed, that he's still very much in love with his wife, and so there's that also emotional tie that is there, that is then being that builds a slight resentment toward his son. In addition to that, we're in key scene right at the top. You see that his son Cole, played by Demir Kovic, that his son Cole has is a bit of a ladies' man and has left these relationships with local girls, and the detritus of those relationships falls on the shoulders of the father. So there's just in one scene alone, there's a myriad of layering already that's going on, and in that dynamic, that also then helps to launch when a crisis occurs in that small town. You know, the two forces that are father and son, along with the character Billy, they have to work together to try and solve that particular problem. And the dynamic of the relationship chains and arcs through the entire film where they start to work together. But it's Cole that goes into the building and then has a direct one-on-one relationship, with the antithesis of what's happening inside the bank. But at the same time that's going on, my relationship with Simon's character is never facially and realized in person to person. It's all happening via walkie-talkies and telephones as well. So you got these different dynamics as well as the relationship that I have not only with Ken's character as the mayor, but also Al Diaz's character, who's the bank manager, and Al does a terrific job of playing that fine line of that is, a longtime loyal friend, but also has another side to him as well. So you're developing all these different complexities of character. It's just great for actors to play.
It's a great point. I want to talk about that with Simon and Jamie. So, like you say, just that scene there between Anthony and his son, like you say, so that we learn so much about both of them over one cup of coffee. But we get introduction to Ken's character, we get introduction to the bank manager and all those employees. How much was that in the script? How much was that in editing to get all our characters, get all our people on the board ready, and then off we go?
I think very much that bit of the script was scripted. Yeah, like I very little of that was ad lib, right, Simon? If I remember,
I think we set all the pieces up at the beginning. I to be honest, I can't particularly remember, but I think it's all as it was supposed to be, if that makes sense. On that one, it was important for me to. The only thing I really established, other than the introduction, the visual introductions of all the characters, was to give you the problem. And the problem is that Tony's character and Demir's character are at kind of loggerheads. There's sort of scenes at the end of the conversation with them, which we kind of flash back to 3 or 4 times. You can see that these two guys really aren't going to make any progress here. They've kind of reached the end of that. They're still sat at the table, with each other, but there isn't much communicating really, or there isn't much middle ground, it appears. And then the robbery happens, and then that gets in the way. And that acts as obviously the catalyst, for them to come back together. But it's nice because it sets up the problem. The problem is not the robbery, sort of the problem is the father and son. And you're thinking, right, these are two obviously good guys. They have the audience who probably not really agree or disagree with either of them. They're both making valid points. Tony's character perhaps comes with a touch more ego. His son is conciliatory a little bit at the beginning. And it's. But then his dad is the one that picked up his mess after he left. The dad's the one that stayed, so the dad's the one that felt the son abandoned him because, I think even though it was what the mother wanted the son to do, sort of like Tony had to stay. It was his wife, sort of, but the mother didn't want to drag the son, down with him. So, she told him to go. So it's complicated and stuff like that. But then I liked that's the problem, and then throughout the course of the films, that problem solves itself a little bit.
One of the nice things about the film as well, I mean, it is when Simon, as he's doing, is talking about the complexity of characters too. It's character-driven script. And, and that's also what is making, the Omro Heist unique in what is being churned out by larger Hollywood machines in the corporate system.
So let's talk about that. Yeah. So when people see the word heist and attacker, we think, oh, it's like an Ocean's 11 movie. Oh, wonderful, great. With a glitzy glamour, blah, 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 blah. But let's talk about Mr. Bressers, your character. So local mayor, after a second term, we're in the politics that we're in right now. We're thinking boo, hiss, whatever. How did you approach the mayor to maybe make him sympathetic, but no, oh, he's got the red tie on and everything. How did you approach the mayor to try and make him as human as possible?
The nice thing about this show is that I like to call it comfortable. And the reason for that is because we do get the layering of the characters out kind of mostly in the beginning. Sometimes I'll watch a movie and you're 45 minutes in, and then you get a reveal of just of the person themselves. And you say, oh, well, no wonder he did this, or no wonder he said that. And I don't know that, I think that's working too much as the audience, sometimes you get those reveals and it's part of the plot, and that's fine, of course. As far as the mayor goes, I looked at him as a guy that he was not motivated by money. He's one of those guys that, we got to have money around because that's how we keep score. But he wasn't really motivated by money. I think he was more motivated by the power and the fact that he could outsmart everyone else. And at the towards the end, he was more upset, not about losing money or anything else. He was more upset that someone outthanked him or outthunk him. He was upset because he got caught, period. And so it was a little bit easier to slide into that kind of a character and play him out that way. And then also to be a little bit two-faced, the kind of person he was to his secretary or to his business connections or the people he was talking to was definitely different than him when he was out with his public and being interviewed on local TV. Then he was a totally different person. And that it was fun. A lot of fun.
There's a revelatory scene that happens between the mayor and with Ken and Al Diaz, the bank manager, where both of them, as they're maneuvering and manipulating, are holding a gun to each other's head. So you've got even that right in there, the tension between that dynamic as well just helps to, again, with all the layering, set things up as we proceed through the film.
Absolutely. And Jimmy, just listen to the gents talk. It must have been so much fun going to work every day and thinking, oh, I've got a scene with Ken. I've got a scene with Tony. I've got Simon again. It must have been just joyful to work.
Yeah,
Especially with me.
Or of course, especially with Ken, yes. Ever since I was 13 years old, I wanted to make movies. So any day I'm on set with a camera in my hands, I feel like that little kid. But to work with such great actors is a real treat. And this really, I think there was a bit of magic. I was saying in the past interview here that the town kind of came together. Not only the on-screen talent, but there's an old lady in a walker that walked past one day, and she's like, well, what are you guys doing? We were kind of like the circus that came to town, right? Like everyone kind of heard of us, so if they would see us somewhere, this sweet little old lady come over, and she's like, well, I could be in the movie. So we had her come in the next day, and she stayed for 3 days waiting for her big scene with Ken, as one of the voters in the town. But she's actually in the movie. But there's a lot of experiences like that. Simon and I made 7 movies together, and we do them kind of in the same style of shooting them very quickly. But I have to say, the town that we were in and the people that were in were so lovely that it added this extra little magic sauce into the whole thing.
I have to say too that part of the reason that is all happening is that the pre-production work that was done by all of these guys to set it up. Yes, detailing the script and making sure that it was as tight as possible as well, planning the shots to a certain degree, but also being spontaneous what was going to happen. And the work that Ken was talking about, just specifically the bank and his relationships with the people in Omro and what he could achieve logistically. But and part of that was also locations, because he has relationships with the person that owned the bait and tackle shop. He had a relationship with the person that owned the diner down the street. We were able to shoot behind the bank as well, and people that had houses there in Omro. And so that all lends to the authenticity of what, and the complexity of what was being shot as well. And just wonderful, sets and locations.
There was an element of we're right into it. Everyone's on the board. Everyone's ready. In we go. Robbery begins. How much research, Simon, did you do into? For example, your character says, talk me through the course you did as a bank manager that goes through a robbery, point by point, and things like that. Did you research things like that? Did you watch other heist movies, or did they just come from you? Like, this would be fun, this would be awesome, this would be violence.
I'll tell you a tidbit of information that nobody knows. My mother used to work in a bank, in the Bank of Ireland, which is oddly, a Bank of Ireland is in England. So I don't know how that works, but anyway, there it is. She was robbed at one point. So she was robbed by the IRA, who often used to rob banks to fund stuff. Anyway, she was robbed at gunpoint, and I didn't realize this, but they have a whole course, and this is back in the 80s. They have a whole course of what to do if they're robbed. So they go through training on that. I suppose it makes sense that they would have to do it, but I didn't realize it was quite so in depth. And they have these weird things like try and refer to them as their name, make them see you as a human being, all sort of thing. So I wrote some of those things in just because I know that some of those things happen. But really, for this sort of script, this sort of story, it was all about other heist movies. I don't think, remember, it's not really a bank robbery. It's a bank heist. These guys have no intention of getting away with a whole load of money that they stole from the vaults. That's not what they're there for. It's fun to let the audience think that that's what they're doing for a minute. But really, we're talking about Die Hard for me, sort of like where, the police outside, led up by Tony's characters, are trying to constantly figure out what the guys inside are doing. At some point they think they know, and then it shifts again, really. So there's this, there's this still cat and mouse game with them where they're trying to figure out what's going on. So it's not as simple as that. And that's what's fun about a heist. But, boys like those sort of movies because it's that, that element of danger. And what would you do in that scenario? It's always a fun, as Jamie was saying about cops and robbers, it's always a fun sort of game of survival, as it were, sort of in a boy's mind. So, yeah, I mean, it's just a lot of fun.
And it's a lot of fun as well, absolutely. And Mr. Bailey, how did you fill in Simon's script with the cast? Can you tell me a little bit about how all these gents found their roles?
Well, okay, so like Simon had a big role in cast in this movie too as well. But like a lot of people that that are in this movie, we work with from previous movies. And then Anthony was good friends. I'll let either Anthony or Ken tell the story. They've been friends since 1976. We took some people down from Toronto. We've had in a bunch of films, and then Anthony came in late in the process. Simon, do you want to talk more about this?
Yeah, so I have a system here where I like to ask actors, Glenn, to recommend actors. So we actually asked Tony before he was involved if he knew a female. We were looking for a female lead to match up against Demir, and Tony didn't want to play the female lead. So we recommended Mackenzie Jones, who played Cece. She did a great job. But then through this process, we were luring in Tony. He had no idea, sort of that we were fishing, and he was really in shallow waters with us, but he didn't know that, which is the best fishing in the world, by the way. So yeah, we trapped him into, sort of, he was free that week, so he took a bit of a chance on that. But most of the people involved, we actually knew them from previous productions or something like that. So we had a cast that we had a good shorthand with already. But also, I mean, we'd started when we were writing it, I had that in mind as well, because sometimes it's really helpful to know the type of person that's going to be in their role. Even if they don't end up being the role, it's easiest to write that with them in mind. And the way that you would want it to happen, to be honest, Glenn, sort of you go, I hope I get all these people, and then you go, oh, I actually got all those people. That's great. That's way better than I thought we could do.
And also too, like our projects are normally they're non-union, so we don't have people in the union to be able to pull from that all the time. Some people in this film were union, but I mean, I would say 90% of the people in the movie are non-union. So in that situation, like job number one is just to get a really good actor, and the way that you know you have a good actor or not is if you work with them before. So if we have had experience with another good actor in another project, we tend to take them along for the next ride.
Cast 2 was assembled in this case, internationally. I mean, because we had actors that came down from Canada. We had actors. Al Diaz is from Dallas. You had Mackenzie Jones, who was mentioned before, is from Chicago. I flew in from Los Angeles. It was via all those recommendations from people, and then we were able to also access some really key talent in the state of Wisconsin. And so the state of Wisconsin was supportive in a myriad of ways to just help and be even beyond that too. I mean, the relationships that go beyond the construction of the film went into people that we found, whether it is Annie with the press, or Glenn Turk, who's helped out with Wisconsin Press. And I'll say one other key component and then throw it to Ken. We were able to have a couple of screenings enter into film festival in Milwaukee Independent Film Festival. We're fortunate enough to get nominated, even on this team. Jamie and Simon were nominated for a couple of awards, and Simon won an award, and the film won Best Feature in the Wisconsin Film Festival as well. And through that, generate some press as well. And I'll throw it to Ken about the screenings and the importance of all of that.
Oh yeah, I've been going on record here as what we did, and kind of by accident actually. We had a preview of the film up here in the Omro area. To thank everyone who helped on the film, one of those things, and then through Tony's friend Lee Barzak in Milwaukee, who owns 3 theaters down there. He opened up one of his flagship theater, the Avalon, which I used to go to when I was a teenager. It was in my old neighborhood in Milwaukee. And he's refurbished it. Unbelievable, latest technology, great screen. And we had a nice attendance of friends, family, and a lot of media people. And we screened it there as well. And I'll tell you something, Tony and I were at both of these, and we were able to take our notes, but more importantly, we were able to give Simon and Jamie, the feedback from the audience of what they reacted to, what they didn't react to, when they were talking or when they were quiet, and also a lot of the comments that they gave us afterwards. And then we did do another cut. We re-edited it, and I'm telling you, it's surprising, but the movie that we ended up with then became measurably better than what we had shown on these 2 previews. And I would encourage any independent making a movie, small budget, to do a couple of these things. And I'm not bragging or anything else. I'm just out of seeing it work. It's the number one. Get somebody, make sure you can get a theater, invite 20, 30, whatever people, more if you want, and screen it. And then do your final cut. I think it really worked out super well. And then just to jump in on what we're talking about, the other part about this is, again, you're working on a small budget, you got a really good script, make sure you cast well. That's like 90% of it right there. Take the time and effort to go after cast members that are good, professional, they're not going to forget their lines, they've got some experience, and you're going to end up with a good movie.
Wow, that's amazing advice. I love that. Can you tell us or share how the movie was changed, or were there scenes that were reshoots, anything like that, based on Mr. Bressers' screenings?
Yeah, we didn't shoot anything new, but we did reshuffle the movie and tightened up a couple scenes. There was a couple things that weren't completely working. You don't really know what you have until people see it, right? And so I wasn't actually in the room, but I got everyone's notes about how people reacted to certain things. And we didn't change anything dramatically. I'd say it's still 98% of what it was in that final thing. One thing was we changed the name. It was originally called Omro. Now it's the Omro Heist. But the opening bit where you see Simon facing off with Demir in that opening scene, that was a new thing that we'd added. And there's something about giving, starting the movie in the middle of something like that, where your brain has to fill in the rest of the pieces. And that was a note that kind of came back after the screenings. That's probably the biggest change that happens in the first couple seconds of the movie. And I think it does make it stronger. I think it, I don't want to call them tricks, but I mean, there's like, cards that you can play that we played in the re-edit that, again, done 8% the original movie, but it is tighter. I always say that no movie's finished, it's abandoned. And of course, I mean, like with every movie that I've ever made, I would like to go back and shoot, entire days and do all kinds of changes to it. With the Mousetrap, we had the director's cut. Before it was released, I went out and shot, Simon and I went out and shot 20 more minutes of that movie that was released in Japan this last March. But if I had free reign, I would just keep going back. Like, there's a lot of directors that do that are like James Cameron does that to his movies. If there's a re-release coming out, George Lucas, whatever, not that I'm in the same category as them, but like, I can see the drive that 20 years later from now, let's go revisit Omro and make some changes to that movie for another release. Sure. Why not?
The Omro special edition. Yeah, for sure. You got to play with guns. So obviously, Simon, it's not the first time you've held weapons or things like that. Of course, you worked beside Arnie, for example. But what was the training like? What were the props and tear gas? Was there training involved? And was it extensive? Was it fun?
So sorry, but fun fact: Simon won't take any role unless he's holding a gun in it. That's in his contract.
No gun, no movie.
Like, who am I killing? I was like, I'm not doing this unless I hit a woman in the face with a gun.
It doesn't have to be on camera.
No idea how hard it is to get these Hallmark guys to agree to that. So.
I have to speak about some of that stuff in the action sequences that happened. I'm a big fan of Elia Kazan, and I'm a member of the Actors Studio in New York and in Los Angeles. And there is always that spontaneity factor, and you want to capitalize on sometimes as Lee Strasberg would quote the great Russian director and teacher Konstantin Stanislavski. No such thing as an accident on stage or in film, only the potential for divine inspiration. We had a couple of those moments in the film. And when in the shooting process, one of the key ones I just mentioned it the other day was as well, when the bad guys are bursting into the film, first doing the beginning of a heist as well. There was a group of locals that were serving as part of the were actors and were part of that opening scene. There was an actress that was there that was moving backwards as the guys were moving in with the guns, and she stumbled and fell and grabbed onto a stanchion and fell backward. Well, that wasn't intentioned, that wasn't planned, but that's the take that's in the film, and it served to just heighten the reality of what was taking place.
Right. Yeah, and that was not really an actress too. That was the local. So God bless this woman. Ken, do you know her name? I
do not.
Oh, like she's my hero. She's my absolute hero. And this kind of sums up the spirit of this town.
It was.
Well, when we shot this moment, I was on a Steadicam unit. We had tear gas bombs going off. Everyone's coughing for real. And she just falls back. And in that moment, like you're as a human, your first reflex is like, "Are you okay?" And then the director, camera operator, cinematographer in me was like, "Don't shake the camera." So I held it as steady as I could. At the same time, we asked this woman if she's okay. And then this is the insane part. She was like, "I'm fine." Like, you fell on the floor. Like, I think you hit your head. She's like, I'm totally fine. I'm 100% fine. Let's just keep doing it. And she stayed on the floor for another hour, for however long we were filming the rest of it. But like, just that team spirit was just insane.
I mean, can you imagine asking an actor to fall backwards? That is a tough assignment. She fell backwards, and then that stanchion stayed on the floor the entire movie.
It becomes a very important prop later on that don't want to give anything away, but like that was one of the things that we kind of made up as we went along. That wasn't scripted. Her falling wasn't scripted, and then the stanchion, is that what it's called? When that thing fell, that becoming an important thing later on, it was not in the script.
Right.
Well, she would dine on that forever. That's amazing.
She's in the trailer.
Yeah, it's at that moment in the trailer.
Action gents, how much rehearsal, planning, training went into those scenes? They are great to watch and they're very interesting.
We did make them up on the day, on the spot. We did for the bigger ones. We tried to plan it as much as we could with, like the bank heist scene. That was a bit tricky. But we on the day for everything with the big fights, a couple of big fights. What happens in the hostage room in the basement? That was all very much figured out like in an afternoon and whatnot. And actually, one of the actors. I'm trying not to ruin any part of the movie here, but something happens to him, and when we first shot that, we went through the blocking, and then we did it, and everyone was super anxious and fast moving. I would say too fast even for me to film it properly. The spirit was running high, and he actually hit his head when we actually placed him in that place without ruining anything. You see the movie, you know what I'm talking about. And we had to stop and wait about a half hour or so for him to collect himself. But he went back because that was the first time that we had shot it, and I didn't get it. I had to do it 5 different times, whatever. And God bless him, he came back and finished that little bit, and he was okay.
There was a lot of wrangling too and complexity in the outdoor scenes because when you get into, you go interior, exterior, interior, exterior, when you go to that exterior and you see all of those extras and actors that are moving in the background, when there's the shots that take place outside, what the movements are, how that was planned, where the fire engines were placed, where the police cars were placed. It was a lot of wrangling. And it's a tip of the hat to Jamie and Simon, the way they all set all of it up and kept it moving and kept it consistent in the through line, correct.
Right.
So that it all dovetailed and was there and properly for the edit.
And by the way, too, like we didn't storyboard this. We never shot listed. Like we basically were kind of thrown to the wolves every day and kind of figured it out. Everything that was in the back with the fire trucks and the cop cars, that entire bit was shot in one day with like 1,000 shots for each scene.
Yeah, it was very, very, very cold that day, and guys like Tony were out there, in just shirts, and yeah, it was super cold.
We were also blessed because the weather was cooperating. I'll throw that to Jamie as well.
It was an overcast day, which is like, that's exactly what I needed. Otherwise, I don't know if we would have been able to do it in the course of one day. But the weather was cooperating for my camera to make sure that I could get all the shots I needed without a whole lot of fuss, which was another little bit of magic. It could have rained that day. It could have been super sunny. It could have been too windy. There could have been a million things, but the weather was good. The only thing that really bothered me is that when we first got to that location, when you see the clip of Ken on the news, I shot that on an iPhone, and we actually shot that before we did principal photography. It was like the day before we started shooting the film. If you look behind him in that scene, the trees on the whole street had like all the leaves on them had just turned colored. It was so pretty. But then we shot all the bits back there with all the fire trucks and everything, and Anthony, it was a week later and they were all gone, which made me very sad.
Right.
That's something that no one would notice but me. But
It's just great how you're also proud of the film, obviously. But from the film itself, do you guys have any particular favorite scenes that other people perform, or any other lines that are read in a certain way you think that's amazing? I love that.
For me, it's the Tony and Cole scene. The father son scene at the beginning actually is it sets up the whole problem, and it sets it up in a way that's every single part. I challenge anybody in the audience not to kind of recognize the father son dynamic there. So I think that appeals to people on so many levels. And people can see themselves in either character, which is there, and even jump between it, sort of. So for me, that's the heart of the movie, and it kind of sets everything else in motion, sort of, for that. So that's mine.
my favorite scene in the movie is probably with Simon and the hostage, who he takes her license and he feeds this whole story about her becoming a pilot, and it makes it sound like she's gonna live. Why would he be going through all this? And then as you see the movie, you know what happens. But that scene with that actress, she's actually an employee of Ken's that works at the pharmacy, and acting is not something that she normally does. And we changed that scene up on the day, and she'd been rehearsing the lines for weeks. And I mean, I just really, I'm so blown away. I mean, like, I expect Anthony to do well. I expect Ken to do well. When you have someone who doesn't normally act, you're kind of hoping for them not to tank it and not to distract people when they're watching the movie with a bad actor or actress. And she nailed it. She just nailed it. Like, that's probably my favorite scene in the whole movie.
I have to say that we're very, very fortunate with the company and how they played their scenes. I mean, I could go down the line with working opposite Nick, who played Billy, and Nick's a terrific character actor. Al Diaz is who played the bank manager, is a terrific character actor. Mackenzie Jones and what she brought as well. The actress who played Maria, too, and the consistency throughout the movie. Even the two fellow thugs as well that were opposite Simon. I mean, those guys just play. I could go down the line every single one of them. It's just very fortuitous, and everybody has their moments in this film. As I said at the very beginning of this interview, it's character driven, and there was some really meaty roles for actors to sink their teeth into, and it just you always have to have, as Jamie has said repeatedly, a little bit of serendipity and magic that happens with these kinds of films. And the other thing is cooperation. I mean, we had cooperation from the cast and who were willing to come in early and stay late and do what we had to do in a very tight shooting schedule, and bring it, as Jamie had said as well, every single day. And even those, as Jamie was alluding to, the actor, the woman, I call her actress, and she is an actress who works in Ken's pharmacy. I mean, there was a realistic element to what she was doing that was just read spectacularly right there in that centerpiece, in the middle of the film, and just helps to propel, the danger that is about to, unravel as we keep going along.
What's also interesting is that, like for my part, I didn't interact with any of the actors, the main principal actors, except for Tony, and then Demir a little bit. Tony and Demir time towards the end, but I never was face to face with Simon.
That was actually in Simon's contract. I don't know if you remember that. He's
Simon doesn't like to be in the same frame as me, but yeah, we've done some stuff that's it was. You look back at it, and it's actually it's much more beautiful and well constructed movie than I thought we had. I mean, I really do, and I don't want to be criticizing us. I think it was a good movie to start with, is why we did it. But man, and things just fell together so nicely.
The other serendipitous thing that sort of happened it was going on when we were there in the state of Wisconsin. And hopefully it sets us up to do continuance. I mean, the idea, even with this project, and as Jamie and Simon have mentioned several times, and working with Ken, that they've done several films, we want to keep doing it. We want to keep trying as a group and unit to continue to make more films. And now the table has been set because the state of Wisconsin is now offering a 30% tax incentive via their offices, governmental offices, filmmaking offices. And it just encourages, and I'll throw this to Ken, how important that 30% is when you're dealing with a budget, especially a low budget as well. Ken, take that from there.
Oh yeah, 30% is fantastic, because as an independent filmmaker, we've got our budget cut, down to the bone. All right. So you're not starting out with a whole bunch of perks and a whole bunch of crazy money being spent. And now you take 30% of that and you get that back. You're sitting in a financial position where you could see easily getting your money back. Because, independent films don't always make money. In fact, they most often do not. And, I love it. I tell everybody, you know what? If we break even, we can make another movie. Simple as that. And we all love doing it. And, not that I wouldn't like to see the bottom line be black, but, it really makes that possible with that 30%. It's a great thing.
I think we're partially responsible for kicking that off, aren't we, Tony?
Yes, just a bit.
it was us that pushed the Wisconsin government to do that.
I know you're listen, Simon. I know I mean, he's partially saying that tongue in cheek, but the truth of the matter is, it is. Look, we did get because of these screenings, etc. And it's doing, and we thank you, Glenn, the podcasts too that are helping to get the word out there. It sets up a situation where, states like Wisconsin, which removed the tax incentives, put it back into place. And they, I know a lot of people in the state started hearing about this film and the quality of the filmmaking that was being done. When we were at the Milwaukee Film Festival, I was there and attended, and I had several of these young filmmakers, independent filmmakers, come up to me after seeing the screening of the film and say to me, "How did you do that? How did you make a film that looks like that on an independent budget?" And I mean, it's kudos to the team that's been assembled here. And as Jamie was saying before, having done several of them before and working with Simon, et cetera, there's a certain amount of shorthand that then goes into place. Yes, pre-production planning and all of that. But you're as I was saying before about the happenstance and the divine inspiration, you roll with what you're handed and continue to move forward. The state of Wisconsin sees that you're able to put together a good film, and now in this case, knock on wood, that we've got several distribution outlets that this film is going to go to streaming. It's a success story. It's a success story, and what that says to the state of Wisconsin is, hey man, we can do this. Not only can we do this for young filmmakers, and as Ken was saying, sets the platform for more films to be done. The other thing that it does that is that by doing it there, you're creating a revenue source in the state of Wisconsin that's going to only feed back. I always go to Gladiator 2 being shot in Cyprus, and there was complaints that were levied upon the city officials that had greenlighted the film and offered to give them tax incentives in Cyprus, and it was millions of dollars. And the locals were saying, "How dare you give away our tax money to these Hollywood filmmakers?" And the person who was in charge said, "For every dollar that we spend, for every amount of money that we spend, it comes and realizes back to Cyprus 3 to 5 times what was being spent." And it's an important part of the equation. On the reverse side, it is what Hollywood is suffering from right now, because they were late to the game in offering tax incentives and being supportive of the film community. And the domino effect of what happened from that, people were fleeing, and they still are fleeing Los Angeles because they didn't have enough work. They were going back to places like Dallas, Atlanta, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Wilmington, North Carolina, or they're going north to Calgary, Vancouver, Toronto to go and shoot their films, because again, we're working with budgets. And filmmakers, young filmmakers, independent filmmakers are working with tight budgets. And so you're trying to find every possible incentive and cash back money that is going to come back to you, that's going to help you to set a platform to, as Ken said, to break even at the very least.
I'm going to take that and just make that the podcast.
Oh, perfect.
That is just perfect, sir. Absolutely. And just from a creative point of view, that must really inspire you, Jimmy and Simon, just to keep stories like this going. That's our fireman, Mr. Bressers, I got a great building for you. Come and check it out. And boom, the story comes.
Yeah, we've done this. This isn't our first rodeo either. Like, we have other movies that we shot in a prison. We shot one on a real submarine. It's like, finding a really cool location and then building a story around it. Simon's really good at that.
I like trapping people in places, which works for our thing of like shooting something in a week. So you're like, well, in order to do that, it's kind of cool to trap a small number of people in a tight location, because also that's the tension as well. You're adding a danger. You usually trap somewhere and you have something outside it that's or in this case inside it, that makes it dangerous, and that's the fun bit of that.
Yeah,
and Mr. Phillips said something. You have a company now, which is really endearing as well. So you can say, we've worked with these guys before, we know what we're doing, and that will just can only be a positive thing, right? But Mr. Bailey, for your point of view, you have everything set, don't you, for whatever project? Simon said, e-scripts.
Yeah, exactly. And like Tony was saying, we know these actors, we've worked with them, so we can bring people in as we write. We can imagine these people in those roles, which makes the writing a little easier. And, you know, I'm constantly, and I'm sure everyone else here, wherever we go, whatever we do, you know, I'm always looking for a location. I want something and I go, oh my goodness, this could be it. Then you start inquiring, you know, is this possible maybe? And more than often, you're going to find out it is possible. I mean, my goodness, we shot a movie in a nuclear submarine. Come on.
They gave us the codes too. That would be crazy.
Got it done. I mean, they gave us full access.
Yeah, they regretted that, I bet. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean,
we fired on Israel.
yeah.
What these guys have also talked about with reverse engineering to create a film. What's also happened within the nucleus. There's a couple of things, without giving anything away, that are in the pipeline. You know, everybody, you know, Simon has continued to write. I write. You know, we're continuing to talk about development so that we've got some pieces in place too, so that if we stumble upon the right location, we have something in the war chest that can be possibly pulled out and put into place to potentially shoot it. What we're also doing is, even with the thought of Omro, and that being the setting, developing scripts that will fit into that same mold. And so that we can access those same relationships and network that we have there, and now with tax incentive money to try and do another film.
Yeah. I'm taking acting lessons just to be ready.
Yeah, to have location scouts eyes and see everything as a location, that'd be so awesome. Yeah, that's a skill set right there. If you teach that, for sure. That's awesome. Oh, gents, it's been an absolute pleasure. But before I leave you and I give you a break, I just need to ask, because Mr. Phillips, I sort of like mentioned that we met at this time last year to talk about Mickey's Mousetrap. Now, I lit some hints and I said, is Minnie going to be in the sequel? And you said you couldn't possibly say. So what can you tell me about the Mickey?
I'm saying nothing. I'll let Jamie handle that one. I'm not saying nothing.
Well, yes, obviously Minnie's is the sequel, but yeah, I have actually penned the script for the sequel for this, so we're working on that, and it's a much bigger and far more ridiculous movie than the first one. We will have news shortly.
That's cool. I just want to ask quickly the first movie's reaction. So obviously it hadn't been released yet when I spoke to Mr. Phillips, and the world was very excited about the release and everything like that. How did you feel it was received? Obviously got a sequel. How do you feel about the movie looking back to last year?
I mean, yeah, you know, I think I speak for Jamie here too, but I mean, it was absolutely phenomenal, the attention it got. I mean, yeah, I don't think we could have asked. We were in Rolling Stone, and Jamie was on CNN.
It was on CNN.
We were
Ken's favorite network.
Movies everywhere in the world. Yeah, everywhere. We came back from Japan. We had a theatrical release in Japan. We were at the premiere in Tokyo. Yeah, it was nuts.
Yeah, it was quite wild. I mean, we made the Mousetrap very much the same style that we made Omro. You know, with very, very little resources and very little time. So for us, you know, like at the end of the day, for me, like, again, I'm a 13-year-old kid. I just want to make movies, but for, you know, the world to know that I made a movie is insane for me. Like, that to me is everything. Like, it's great. We're very happy with it.
Excellent. And back to the Omro Heist again, gents. I really, really enjoyed it. I really admire what you've done. I just love the pride that you're all showing in it, and I really hope everyone gets to see it. I'll push as far as I can all over the world. I'm based in Qatar. I'm currently in Spain. I'm from Ireland originally, so I have lots of avenues that hopefully the film.
But before you let us go, Simon, can you say tell where the film is going to be streaming, and also how to access with hashtag?
Yeah, the movie will be out July 29th, the Omro Heist. You can find out where by searching social media. We're under the hashtag the Omro Heist. And July 29th on YouTube Movies, Fandango, Google Play, and probably Amazon Prime. Hashtag the Omro Heist.
Omro Heist. And there we go. Gents, again, thank you so much for your time. I've really enjoyed it. I could speak to you all day probably, but I know you have to get on. But again, best of luck with the movie. And Simon, see you next year sometime.
We want our anniversary next year. Thank you. Thanks, Ken.
Bye, folks. Bye-bye now.